Buddy, what are you up to?
Not much, just playing.
Yeah, what'd you build?
I built this battle drone and this awesome rocket ship.
Nice. What do you say we build a rocket ship that actually flies?
This one flies.
Oh, dude, you just killed your astronaut.
Oops.
Oh.
Hello YouTubers, I'm John Can. Today we're going to do a couple of fun science-y projects for the kids. We're going to start off with an air-powered rocket or a Stomp Rocket. These rockets will be built mostly out of paper. They're inexpensive to build and a lot of fun. We're going to take our sheet of paper and wrap it around a half-inch piece of PVC pipe. You're going to mark the edge of the paper. This gives you an idea as to how much of the paper the kids should decorate. You don't want them to color the whole sheet of paper because only a little bit of it is going to be showing on the rocket. I would advise the kids when you're decorating the rocket to go colorful. You don't want to make the rocket blue because then it blends in with the sky when you shoot it. So, you know, reds and bright colors. Okay, so the rocket's all decorated. Now it's time to wrap it back onto the pipe and tape it in position. Make sure you wrap it fairly tightly on the pipe. The tighter the fit, the better the rocket launches. You want to tape the rocket all the way down the seam of the paper just to give it a little extra strength, make sure it holds up for the launches. The better you build it, the more times you can launch it. You take a couple more pieces of tape and wrap them over the end of the tube. This will help keep the paper from fraying when you put it on the launch tube. Perfect. Now we're going to start working on the nose cone for our rocket. Trace a circle on a piece of paper using a cup or another round apparatus of some form. It needs to be big enough that you get a nice cone shape for the tip of the rocket and provides enough paper to be strong enough for the impact of landing. As you can see, I've just cut a slit towards the center of the circle. Then you just wrap it around on itself and tape it, and this makes a nice little nose cone. Alright, we've got the nose cone built. The next step is to cut out the fins for the rocket. We're going to use like a cardstock for this, or something that's a fairly heavy paper or cardboard. For our rockets, we went with a 1x2 fin. They worked fantastic. You can make them bigger or smaller depending on your preferences, but this worked out really well for us. The last step before we glue the rocket together is to mark where the fins will go. Laying the rocket on its side and then using a pencil to mark where you want the fins gives you a nice even line so you can make sure they're lined up properly. You want the fins on there straight. Now we're just going to use a hot glue gun to glue the nose cone and the fins to the body of the rocket. When you're gluing the nose cone on in particular, use a little more glue than you think you would need. The cone of the rocket takes a lot of pressure during the launch, so make sure it is stuck on there really well. Yay, rockets! Okay, now we're ready to assemble the launcher. This is going to consist of the same piece of PVC pipe that we used to roll up the rockets at the beginning of the video, a piece of garden hose or some other type of flexible hose about 4 feet, a plastic 2-liter bottle, we're using just like a soda bottle, a piece of dowel, and some duct tape. We're going to use the duct tape to tape the hose to the bottle. Then we're going to tape the dowel to the base of the pipe. We'll use the dowel kind of like a stake, stick it in the ground to hold the launcher up when we're launching the rockets. This way you're not holding it in your hand. The last thing we're going to do is tape the bottle to the other end of the hose. The bottle acts as an air bladder. This is what you're going to stomp on to launch the rocket. And again, just like when you're building the rocket, a little more tape than you think is necessary. The stronger you make this thing, the more launches you can get out of it. We got a surprising number of launches out of our rockets and our bottle, close to 100 launches for each rocket. Great, now it's time to go play.
Now we're going to launch this. You ready?
Yep, punch it. Whoa!
That was high! Whoa!
Hit it. Okay, good. And here's how we get the bottle back blown up. Ready to shoot again.
This project was a blast for us. We had a lot of fun with it. It provided my son and his cousins several hours of great entertainment. I want to take a second to give a huge shout out to my buddy Jimmy. He was the guy with the idea for this project. Thank you, Jimmy. This was cool.
2, 1, fire! Whoa! Where's that darn flashlight? Oh well. I guess I'll call and ask. Ring, 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 ring. Ring, 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 ring.
What the heck?
Ring, 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 ring.
Hello?
Hey, Dad. I'm in the shop. Can you tell me where the flashlight is?
Dude, I can't hear you good. What?
I'm looking for a flashlight.
But I can't hear you. Hold on, I gotta turn the volume up on this thing. Hello? What? What's going on?
I'm looking for...
Oh!
Our next project is to build a working speaker out of a cup. This is a great project to demonstrate electromagnetism. We're going to use wire out of an old solenoid that I salvaged. The wire is insulated. You must use a insulated wire for this. You want something that's very fine. You want to wrap your wire around something that's slightly larger than the permanent magnet you'll use. The number of wraps depends on how much wire you've got. We went with 50 wraps to try to get our electromagnet to be fairly strong. And you want to make sure that your winding is wrapped pretty tight. Once you have your winding wound up, you need to remove some of the insulation from the ends of the wires. Now we're going to cut out what would be the speaker cone. We're going to wind up gluing the electromagnet to this. This is what will make our speaker produce sound. We're just going to use the same kind of cardstock that we made the fins for our rocket. You want to use something that is as light as possible but still fairly sturdy, something that's pretty stable. You need to find the center of the cone and mark it, that way you know where to glue your electromagnet. We're going to wind up using the hot glue gun to attach the electromagnet to the cardstock. You don't want to get too wild with this. Again, you want this to be as light as possible. Your speaker cone should look something like this when you're done. The next step is to build the base to hold the permanent magnet in the cup. I'm going to cut a couple of slots in the side of the cup and then run the piece of wood through. We're using just a paint stir stick for this. The trick to this is that you want your magnet to be in the cup as close to the electromagnet as is possible without touching it. Once we got our stir stick inserted into the slots in the cup, we trimmed the end off of it. You don't have to trim it if you don't want to. Whatever makes you happy inside, you go ahead and do that. And once again, we're going to bring out the hot glue gun to glue this in place. Weight isn't such a factor in this one. You can use a pretty good amount of glue on here. You just want to make sure that it is secure. Now we need to find the center of this base. That way we know where to glue the permanent magnet. A little more hot glue and stick your magnet on there. It should look like this. You don't want to cut a hole in the side of your speaker housing to run the wires from the electromagnet out of the speaker housing. It doesn't have to be a very big hole, just enough to get those wires out and provide enough clearance to work with. Excellent, just like this. We're going to use a little bit of packing tape to secure the cone of the speaker to the speaker housing. This project is a great opportunity to teach kids about magnets, electromagnetism, and sound waves. It's a very simple project that has a lot of science involved. Once that's secured, it'll be time to finish up the wiring. The fine wire that we use to make the electromagnet is a little on the small side to hook up to your average radio. We wound up using a couple of butt connectors to connect the small wire to something that's a little larger. That way we would be able to hook it up to a radio. If you don't have butt connectors readily available, you can just twist the wires together and put a little bit of electrical tape on them. And once again, we're going to break out the hot glue gun. We'll glue these wires to the speaker housing. That way we don't have to worry so much about them getting pulled out of our housing and ruining the electromagnet. Alright, we've got our speaker put together. Now all that's left is to hook it up to a radio or something and try it out. These speakers aren't particularly loud, and they're obviously not for some like home stereo use or any of that, but they're a quick, easy project, and it's a lot of fun.
Are you tired of buying your significant other flowers to watch them die and end up in the trash? Are you
Can hear it, huh?
Plants alive? I've got
Yes.
for you.
Metal flowers.
Metal flowers are a true sign of your undying love because they don't die. And now you can get metal flowers for the low price in stereo. What now?
And thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I'm John Can, and remember, if I can build it, so can you.